everybody. Welcome to Marvel Champions Monthly. We are a somewhat more frequently than monthly podcast about the card game Marvel Champions by Fantasy Flight Games. I'm one of your hosts, Kennedy Hawk. I've got two hosts with me today. We've got Crimson. How's it going, Crim?
It is going good.
It's going great over there. You've got like a little project you're working on. Do you want to tell people about it?
Yeah, that's kind of why I didn't do the assignment very much. Got a little busy. I pretty much have been. So everybody knows that I'm a big fan of the original Overpower, but it's so dated. It's convoluted. It's definitely a '90s, or it's a '90s card game, which means it was way overcomplicated than what it needed to be. So I've been working on creating I've been calling it Overpower 2020. And it's a much more streamlined. It's more like a card battler instead of with venture and bidding and stuff like that. It's just fight. I love Marvel Champions, but sometimes I want to play player versus player instead of player versus the environment. And so I just been working on creating a couple cards. I'm hoping that once a little bit more playtesting is done, it'll get out there. And Marvel Champions has a huge homebrew scene where people are making their own content for the game. Well, hopefully if they like this, if they like the mechanics of the game engine that I designed, then they can make heroes and villains for it themselves, and it could be pretty fun. And it's all open source. Anybody can do anything with it. Nobody's making any money, so I'm sure technically there's some fair usage you can use in there, since there is we are using Marvel cards online, but it's kind of weird, kind of strange how that gets in, but it's just for fun. It's just like homebrew stuff.
It's a fan project. It looks cool.
Exactly. So I'm just like, hey, let people enjoy that. I've been working on it for about a year now. I have a bunch of other cards in the back burner right now. I just have Wolverine, Jean Grey, Iceman, Magneto, Sabretooth, and Mystique finished. Working on Avengers characters right now. So looks fun, and hopefully maybe you should see a couple videos of maybe me and Kennedy Hawk trying some games out.
Let's do it. We'll schedule it. It'll be sweet.
Yeah.
And we've got Attercop. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm here too. What's up?
You're here too. Yep, you exist. It's true. No Americano, but we're going to venture on. We are in episode 2 of 3 talking about Mad Titan Shadow. So last episode we talked all about the hero cards, the 2 new amazing heroes you get. Today we're going to talk about the first 3 campaign scenarios. So that's Ebony Maw, leave now if you don't want more spoilers, Tower Defense, again, leave now if you don't want even more spoilers, and Thanos. What? Thanos is the middle villain? We can talk all about that too.
Yeah, that was the kind of the weird shocker for me.
Big shocker, right? Before we get too far, we can do our MCM Match-up for this 2-week period or segment. So, Crimson, last time you challenged people to play characters with their least favorite aspect, or their least, synergistic aspect. Who do you think the top 3 heroes played were?
Considering I pushed Hulk, I'm going to assume it was Hulk.
Hulk was 3rd.
Really? Nice. Oh, yeah. Hopefully some new people got an appreciation for just an excellently well-designed character.
He's mean, he's green, he's on the scene.
The most played deck was Groot Leadership. So,
whoa.
People were like, why would I ever do this? And they might be right, but they had a fairly good win rate still. So
nice.
The win rate wasn't horrible, so that made me feel a little better. 65% win rate over all the responses. So lower than the last challenge or 2 challenges ago, but I think that's expected since you're playing hard decks, right?
Yeah.
Second most played character, Protection, Hawkeye. Isn't that embarrassing? People think Hawkeye is bad. I am disgusted. And those weren't all me, trust me. I didn't even play Hawkeye in this challenge. I was one of those idiots that played Leadership Groot, so it went well.
I enjoy finding the weirdness in it, and the Hulk Justice decks are just super fun, but they are different. They hit different. I would love to see some testimonials from people.
Yeah, we can get people to post about them in our Discord. There's a channel where people can post all about however it went for them. So I would say definitely join there and talk about it.
I'm just disappointed that they're not calling leadership Groot like Cedarship or Leafership. I think those are all good.
This would
I
be
like
smart.
I like Cedarship. It smells good.
Yeah, so Cedarship.
Cedar chip or cedar ship?
Cedarship. I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't change the whole word, but you get the joke. Like it's pretty good, I think.
It's good. It's good.
Thank you.
I approve. All right. Well, we've rotated through all four of us, so I'm gonna go back and do the next challenge. If we ever have a guest host, we almost had one today, and then I scared them away. We'll make them do a challenge, but until then, we'll just keep rotating. So I know not everybody has Mad Titan's Shadow yet, so I'm not going to use anything from Mad Titan's Shadow yet, but I'm going to use something that hopefully Attercop and I are very excited about. So this is what everybody's going to do. Everybody that wants to, so all four listeners. You're going to play Crossbones, who's one of my favorite villains from Rise of the Red Skull, with really low threat thresholds and all sorts of things. And he comes with 3 modular sets, so I have like infinite cosmic power right now. I could pick 3 things you have to mix in. But, plot twist, we're not going to use normal modular sets. What you're going to mix in is Captain America's Nemesis set with Baron Zemo, Black Widow's Nemesis set with Taskmaster, and Spider-Woman's Nemesis set with the Viper. So that's 3 Hydra Nemesis sets. You're going to get 9 Hydra minions mixed in and multiple copies of Hail Hydra. And I want to see how it works out. I'm pretty excited.
This is already spectacular.
So you're going to use Nemesis sets as if they were modular sets in this scenario. Hit Squad from Captain America is going to show up and make everybody mad. Taskmaster could be the first boost card of the game just to ruin your day, so be prepared. And if you decide to play Captain America, Black Widow, or Spider-Woman, if you draw Shadows of the Past, you don't have the set-aside Nemesis, so it's just going to surge on you.
Yeah, no big deal.
So, no big deal. You just get a new card, and it's probably worse. So, there you go. That's the challenge. Very Hydra-themed, and then maybe for the next one, we'll be more excited to... We'll be done with our Mad Titan Shadow episodes at that point, so then we can say, let's use MTS cards in our challenge.
I'm actually starting the challenge right now. I'm actually playing it as we speak.
Hold on, didn't you get emailed that commercial? Who's our sponsor this week?
Oh man, okay. Let me move all these cards out of the way. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, okay. Is this? I don't even know this email address. Okay. Today's MCM sponsor is. No, hold on. Kennedy Hawk's mom? Oh yeah. Okay, she still pays his internet, so yeah, she's our sponsor.
It's totally true. One of our 4 listeners is my mom, so thanks, Mom. But, she's going to cut me off someday. So someday, sometime, we will need your support. And if you want to support the MCM podcast, you can go to patreon.com/MCM podcast. There's a bunch of different reward tiers for different shoutouts on the show, Discord channel access, and all sorts of things. This week, we're going to thank Mika and Loch Ness. Thank you so much for supporting MCM, and to all our patrons and everybody in the community for hanging out and talking about Marvel Champions. But
Even if they didn't support the show.
Yeah, even if you didn't support the show, even if you support not the show, that's totally fine too. Just buy Marvel Champions, basically.
Yeah.
I have an idea. What about if we hit an arbitrary number, and if we hit it, we stop doing the commercials? Because I would pay to have the commercials end.
If we hit an arbitrary number, I think Crimson will include all the commercials in the future.
No,
that is the deal. So I don't know what that number is. It's like 2 cents or something.
2
so
million.
Starting now, I've heard of volunteer.
They're so cringe.
That's the point. Come on, they're fun.
They're great. And they're all real, 100% authentic. No one emailed this one in at all, making fun of me for my mom paying my internet. Trust me.
What a deal. I wish my mom paid my internet.
Actually, I kind of do too.
See, y'all are jealous.
Internet's expensive. It's like $120.
All right. Well, on to Mad Titan Shadow. We are in the shadows of the Mad Titan. So, Mad Titan Shadow is a 5-scenario box. We're going to go over the first 3, and I think Crimson was going to overview Ebony Maw for us.
Sure. Ebony Maw, he's kind of honestly, nothing too crazy with him. The spells are a little unique, but they're not crazy. So Ebony Maw is a 2-scheme, 1 attack. I'm just going to talk about his base stuff. Force Interrupt. When he activates it against you, remove 1 evocation counter from each spell card in your play area. His upgraded version is going to be the same thing with removing the counters, and then when revealed, each player discards cards from the top of the encounter deck until they discard a spell card and put that card into play. Now, it is interesting is each player will do this. So you will get lots of spell cards out. He does have 8 spell cards. Unfortunately, I don't know what his level 3 does because I don't have that up.
Spoiler alert, it puts out another spell card for each player.
Okay. The attack on Nowhere, which is his main scheme, it's like standard set and 2 modular sets. The ones they're recommending are Armies of Titan and Black Order. I did not play him with those. I did not play him as part of the campaign. I just played him standalone. So I used, some ones that I was more familiar with. So that way I wasn't seeing a ton of new cards. I'll see more, each new card that I was seeing was his. I like the spells. I think it's pretty fun. I dislike the Surge on everything because I'm not a fan of Surge in general. I think it's a crutch. But I like the spells. The spells were fun. I do think they were a little easier than they should have been. It makes a difference being able to see what's coming and being able to plan around them versus having the more surprised aspect of, flipping things over and, not knowing if that's going to be an assault or a scheme or something like that. But yeah, he's got 4 spells. He's got 2 of each. He's got Rumble Storm, Pacification, Manipulation, and Fireball. By far, Manipulation is the worst one. I am kind of going over the spells because they're the unique thing in his thing. So Rumble Storm is going to come into play with 3 counters on it. So, it's going to tick down each turn. After the last counter is removed, you're going to discard it, and it's going to deal 2 damage to each character you control. So very strong against leadership characters. Against Justice, it was not that big of a deal. I was able to just heal through that. Pacification, 3 counters also. When you remove the last counter, you're going to exhaust each upgrade you control, and then you are stunned. I wasn't playing a character, so I was playing Hulk Justice, but this is actually what I played the challenge on. The exhausting the upgrades wasn't a big deal for me, but I could definitely see it in a more upgrade heavy deck like an Iron Man deck. Pacification is going to hurt. The stun sucked. That's what sucked the most for me because, well, Hulk does not like being stunned. Manipulation. This card was the one that really hurt me the most, especially since I was playing Hulk, which has 4 hand size. 2 counters. When you remove the last counter, you discard 1 card at random from hand, and you are confused. So not only was I playing Hulk, which has a very low hand size, I was also playing Justice, so this one was a pain in the butt for me. It also comes with 2 counters instead of 3, so it was popping off quicker, so less time for setups and stuff on that. And his last one is Fireball. Comes with 4 counters, so you get plenty of time to prepare for it. When you remove the last counter, it's going to deal 4 damage to your identity. It does not matter if you're in alter ego, or in hero form. It's just straight up 4 damage to the identity. Beyond that, he has 2 of the same side scheme, Reactor Overload, and each player must choose to take 2 damage or place 2 threat here, and it's got a crisis icon. So you're going to end up either taking a little bit of damage and making it easier to bust through it and get back to the main scheme, or just if you got a lot of threat removal, put the threat on there and then break it. He has something it's interesting. It's like tough but different. So attached to Ebony Maw, prevent all damage to Ebony Maw. Force response after it prevents 2 or more damage from a single attack, discard it. So a 1 damage is not going to get rid of it, but if you can hit him for 2 damage, it's going to drop off like tough. So it's just like an upgraded tough, pretty much.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I mean,
yeah.
I thought you would appreciate this. I've seen a lot of people compare him to video games like Slay the Spire, where you kind of know what attack is coming up in a couple turns, and you have to position your team and abilities correctly to counteract what's about to happen. I thought that was a really good comparison. I think it's spot on. So kudos to everyone, the thousands of people that I've seen say that. I'm gonna copy it.
That's how he felt, and I like that because I like the way I play games is I think a couple turns ahead. I play the game like chess, and being able to see what was coming up and being able to adjust towards it made it real fun. I mean, it was a real fun experience.
So there's some stuff I don't like about Ebony Maw. You mentioned the surge on all the spells, but in Expert you start with 2 spells out for each player. So in 4-player you start with all 8 spells out. And there's a ton of cards in his deck and effects on his main scheme and villain that search for more spells. So if you hit any of those before a new spell is out, you end up getting a bunch of acceleration tokens needlessly. So my first game against Ebony Maw, I always go in with Hawkeye first, every campaign box, which worked tremendously well with Galaxy's Most Wanted. Don't worry.
I bet.
I made it through Collector 1. I was pretty happy.
All the way?
All the way through Collector 1. That was a great 2 mission campaign.
Man.
So my first game with Hawkeye, I got double Fireball in Expert mode as my 2 starting invocations. So in 4 turns, I'm taking 8 damage to face. And in case you don't know, I only have 9 health. That sucks. And then, so he activates and makes those go from 4 counters to 3. So I've got 3 more activations on my ticking time clock. And I draw a Rubble Storm, which has 3 counters and deals 2 to everything. So now I'm taking 10 to face in 3 activations. And the only thing I can do is draw Endurance or that really cruddy Invulnerability card. And that's really a feel bad moment. And it's not going to happen every game. But in Expert mode, when you're starting with 2 of the 8 out, I mean, you could pretty easily start with 6 damage all aligned or 8 damage all aligned or close to aligned. And that's a bit unfortunate to me. If I was playing this with a new player that had never played Marvel Champions and that was their first experience was, I died turn 3 and there's nothing I can do but race, they would not enjoy it very much. And we did have this happen to a lot of people when we played between our different groups, just getting too many spells on them to the point where they're like, well, all I can do is sit here and heal for 4 turns. It was just very unengaging, which was unfortunate. That's my negative thing for Ebony Maw.
Tougher characters.
See, there you go.
Yeah,
just don't play
that's
Hawkeye.
An option. You could just eliminate all of the 9 hit point characters, but that eliminates.
I do that already.
I did see someone in Discord post this, and I had this happen to our 4-player group as well. We started an Expert, and we had all 8 spells out, because that's how you start Expert. That's fun. And the one player stayed down, so Ebony Maw got 1 scheme in. And then 2 of our encounter cards were advanced, so he got 3 scheme activations. And between that and something else bad happened, I can't remember what. Somebody placed threat somehow, or maybe he got 4. No, he didn't get 4 scheme activations. Something happened that he popped that scheme before any of our things went away, And the revelation on 2A is that each player is going to discard looking for a spell invocation. But if they're all in play, that means your team just gets 4 acceleration tokens. And that's a little awkward and no fun. Like, you just lost a scheme on stage 1B. Now try to not lose 2B with 4 acceleration tokens out. Good luck. Not ideal. But I like him. He's a good intro villain. What do you think of him, Attercop?
I like him a lot. Like you said before, I like knowing that stuff. Like, I know what's going to happen in the next few turns is kind of cool because it adds another dimension to your decision making. Like, beyond can I flip to alter ego, or can I survive these undefended attacks? Do I have allies to block, etc. But I also like it thematically. I think it's really dead on because Ebony Maw is like not scary immediately because it's not because he's it's not that he's not doing anything, it's that what he's doing is not immediately apparent, like conceptually. Him preparing the spells slowly and eventually you might just be dead is pretty spot on. He's a pretty dangerous villain. So I like that a lot. The the timer mechanic in general, I would like to see again. Not necessarily as invocation counters on everything, but I like the time down and then thing happens.
That's good. I'm glad people enjoy him. So between Crossbones, Drang, and Ebony Maw, who's your favorite intro villain?
Drawing.
I think it's still Crossbones for me.
That's mine too, is Crossbones. That being said, I think he is a good intro villain. If you don't run into one of those NPE situations, you're going to have a lot of fun with him. His threat threshold, for the most part, is pretty high. He's got a lot of health. He's a chunky entry villain, right?
He's a tanky wizard.
Yeah.
Thick.
He's no Doctor Strange drawing 3 cards and giving everyone tough with his invocations, but they can hurt still.
Yeah.
My Doctor Strange deck would light him up.
So where does Ebony Maw sit in everybody's like villain scheme? If you're grading villains as like, pretend you're your 3rd grade math teacher and you're giving these villains a grade from A to F, where are you putting Ebony Maw?
I'll put him as B. He's fun. He brings something new, but he, like you said, there are instances where, it just goes wrong and has a bad new player experience. So I wouldn't give him A or S, but I think he's fine. I think bringing something new is always important. So yeah, I'd leave him at B.
Yeah, I think I'm at a high B as well, B plus. Because he, like you said, he does have the feel bad moments. Like that's setting up a game and flipping your first couple cards and just getting absolutely blown out when you've spent all the time getting your 3 other friends together to play is a pretty bad feeling, and I couldn't give an A to that.
My 3rd grade math teacher was a jerk, so he would have given him a C plus, and that's where I'm putting him. I think he's pretty close to a B for me, but I hate negative play experiences so much that I'm gonna harp on it. I do really like the countdown mechanic. I agree with that, and we haven't seen that anywhere in Marvel Champions before, so that's actually really, really neat, and I do appreciate that. So that gets him not in the, absorbing man D tier or failure region. He's definitely not down there with Nebula and Ronin, those jerkos. So I'm giving him a C plus, but the box only gets better from here, in my opinion. Any last thoughts on Ebony Maw, the monster? Any tips on how to play against Ebony Maw? You both mentioned liking to think a couple turns ahead. What are some strategies you'd employ for people?
Get tough.
Yeah, honestly, just pack a couple tough tokens here and there. It's going to help you a lot, and just be really conservative with it.
In solo, what I would say is, or even in multiplayer, really plan your stun and confuse well, because he removes tokens when he activates. So if you stun or confuse him, he doesn't get to remove a token from that player that round. So you can kind of, depending on who has the worst situation, make sure like, oh, we're going to confuse him and let Spider-Woman flip down because she's got double fireball and we need more time to figure that out. So really take advantage of those statuses, because you can kind of put a little bit of control in there. And he's got some treacheries that also remove tokens. So treachery canceling can be really, really strong against him.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's not okay. So it's not the when revealed, so you couldn't stop the whole thing with Doctor Strange's counterspell. But yeah, being able to cancel a couple of his treacheries, because they are kind of brutal. Removing an
Especially
invocation.
the Thanos one with the does threat and alter ego or damage and non in hero. Yeah, that one was a little something.
They're pretty brutal. 5 treacheries, they're all pretty brutal. One of the nice things about him is his highest icon cards, or a lot of his 2 icon cards. All 8 of his spells are 2 icon cards, so an expert, those start and play. He does have a couple of 3s. That reflection sort of spell you mentioned and the 2 side schemes, those are his 3 boost icon cards. But other than that, he's got a bunch of 1s, and then I think he's got 1, 2, and then all the 2s are on his spells. So when you start out an expert, that first pass through his deck, you're going to see a couple 3s, a bunch of 1s and 0s on boost icons, which is really good, depending on what modular set you use. We won't talk about modular sets too much today because we got lots of villains to get through, but we'll get to those next episode, I think. So that'll be a bonus for episode 3. All right, we're done with the Maw. We're ready to move on. So somehow your team is going to defeat Ebony Maw in this campaign, but that jerk still gets the stone, because that's what happens in campaigns. The heroes win, but then the consequences, they don't just pan out. But we have a stone from one of the best campaign boxes ever, the Rise of Red Skull, and it's at Avengers Tower. So Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive are going to be assaulting that tower, and we are going to defend it in a scenario called Tower Defense. This is a really interesting scenario. There's 2 villains, Proxima and Corvus, and they're both going to start and play. When you set this scenario up, there are like giant paragraphs of text on like 5 cards that you have to go through. So we'll walk through it just so everybody's aware of the setup. So stage 1A tells you to also reveal stage 2A and put it into play so that there are 2 main schemes and 2 villains. And stage 2A tells you to put the Avengers Tower environment into play, put the focus defense attachment into play. Each player goes and grabs a minion and puts it into play, and then you shuffle the encounter deck. That's a lot of stuff going on. So basically what's going to happen is there's 2 schemes. They both pop at 6 per player. Each villain has 1 scheme that they're associated with. So Proxima's scheme, when it reaches 6 per player, it's going to remove all the threat from the scheme and deal a bunch of damage to Avengers Tower. When Corvus's scheme reaches 6 per player, you're going to remove all the threat from the scheme and deal everyone an encounter card, so you have like a round of heroic mode. And your loss condition, instead of the schemes threshold like popping up, you can still lose by being defeated by the villains, and it does happen. Your loss condition instead is taking too much damage on the tower that you're trying to defend. So Avengers Tower reads, the unique rule does not apply to Avengers Tower, so we can all put Avengers Tower into play. Forced response after damage is placed here. If there is at least 9 damage per player here, remove all of it and flip this card over. Spoilers, on the other side of the card, you discard all those copies of Avengers Tower. The uniqueness rule now does apply, so nobody can play it. And if you get another 9 per player damage on Avengers Tower, it's destroyed and you have lost. So you've got to prevent damage to this tower. The focus defense upgrade, that basically attaches to one of the schemes, and then at the end of the hero phase, when the hero phase ends, you're going to switch which main scheme that focus defense is on. So that tells you which villain activates each round. So it's going to go Proxima, and then Corvus, and then back to Proxima, and then back to Corvus round after round after round. So similar to Ebony Maw, you kind of know what's coming up, which kind of lets you have some advantages in this scenario. You know Corvus probably isn't going to activate on the first turn, so you can take some time before you have to worry about stunning him or dealing with whatever nasty things he might be doing, and you get like a break from him for a turn, and then next turn you get a break from Proxima. There's obviously twists because this is Marvel Champions. That kind of stuff happens. The villains have some really nasty abilities too. So Proxima on all 3 stages has the ability, when she attacks you, choose to either deal 1 damage to Avenger's Tower or give her +2 attack. So she's a 1/2, and then a 1/3, and then a 2/3. So if you give her +2 attack in expert mode, she has 5 attack in both forms. That's pretty brutal. 5 attack is a lot. Corvus has a similar ability. His is after he makes an undefended attack, you discard the top card of the encounter deck and deal damage to the tower for each boost icon. So both of them have abilities that can be putting damage onto the tower. What I've found is that in solo, that 9 damage per player is a really low number, so you can almost never choose to take the damage from these villains. You basically have to defend Corvus, and you have to give Proxima her plus attack and defend with an ally or a tough status or something. And in multiplayer, right, if you're playing with 4 players, you can have 36 damage on each side of the tower. The 1 damage that Proxima puts on there is very minimal, so lots of players can choose to take that, which is nice because then you get like an actual choice, which is good. So that's a couple ways you can get damage on the tower. The other unique thing is, unlike Wrecking Crew, where when you defeat one of these villains, it gets removed, all these villains are going to have 2 stages, but you don't defeat a villain until you've brought both of them to 0. So if you're playing in standard mode, you're going to have Proxima 1 and Corvus 1 in play. You're going to get them both to 0 hit points, and then remove them both and put their version 2s in play. They have pretty low hit point values because there's 2 of them, but the combined hit point values of them are pretty high, right? So stage 1 Proxima has 9 and Corvus has 8, if I'm reading this correctly. Let me verify that and not be a liar here.
Yes, it is 8.
It is 8. Okay. Yeah, so that's 17 combined, right? That's more than Ebony Maw already. So they've got pretty high combined health, and you've got to do lots of splitting of that damage and health. There's a lot of other stuff going on in their kit. There's these Black Order Besiegers that are going to start in play, and I think you'll have to do this ability right away. After a Black Order Besieger engages you, choose to either deal 1 damage to the tower or 2 to your identity. This can be really brutal, right? Because there's 4 of those in the deck, and in 4-player, you're going to start with 4 of them in play. So you're all either going to take 2 damage to your identity or start dealing damage to the tower.
And they add 3 health, which that's nothing. 3 health is the threshold, you know?
You can't use ping damage to get rid of them. A lot of allies don't do 3 damage without some extra buff, so you're wasting like a hero card or activation on them. Pretty brutal. Each of the villains has a weapon that gives them plus attack. Proxima gains Overkill and Piercing, which is disgusting, and Corvus gains Retaliate 1, which you probably don't care about all that much.
Correct.
There is an attachment that gives them +2 attack, and that's the other thing that this kit has. It has a lot. When I say a lot, I mean a lot of ally hate. You'd think with both of those villain abilities, Proxima, you can give her +2 attack and just block with an ally. Corvus only triggers when it's undefended, so you just block with an ally, you chump block the whole game, and nobody cares. There's this card called Direct Assault. It attaches to the villain, who is not the active villain, so the next one that's going to activate. When this villain attacks, its attack gains range. If it defeats an ally, deal 3 damage to the tower, and then discard this card. And it gives the villain +2 attack. So it basically really discourages chump blocking, because if that ally dies, you're placing loss condition onto Avenger's Tower. And in solo, 3 damage onto Avenger's Tower is like 1/6 of the damage you can take. You can only do that 6 times before you lose. So that's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of boost cards that do that too. So there's some boost cards that say on Rain Fire, if the damage from this attack defeats an ally, deal 3 damage to Avenger's Tower. That's a lot from a boost card, especially in solo. The one revealed on that card is also deal 3 damage to Avenger's Tower. So there's going to be a lot of damage going on to this tower, and you've really got to burn these villains down fast to avoid that. I found that Rain Fire scales really poorly with player count. You would think that with 4 players, right, you're more likely to draw Rain Fire. So since you're going through the deck faster, you're going to see it more often, and it will all equal out. But I think in the end, Rain Fire being such a small percentage of the 4-player total makes it pretty inconsequential to 4-player counts, but it makes it just absolutely devastating to a solo player. And that's one of my least favorite things about this scenario, is that you do have this like not proper balancing between solo and multiplayer. The scenario can still be very fun and thematic, which I do truly enjoy though. There's a couple cards in here that make the other villain activate, so don't feel like you're going to be safe always knowing who's going to go next exactly, because you might get a treachery card that switches who is attacking you on that treachery card. All right, that's my spiel.
Rainfire, like that's easily my least favorite card, but like I actually hate that card just because of its effect, like you said, in solo play. With no way to heal the tower. Wait, unless I'm missing something. I'm pretty sure there's not.
There's not, no.
Yeah. I don't want to sound like an idiot completely there. But like 3 damage being 1/6 of your entire life, and the 3 damage also being on the boost effect, which still is a +1. Like that's a lot, and it's pretty hard to work around that. Like
Yep.
obviously there's going to be your corner cases to counter when revealed or cancel your star icons, but besides those corner cases, like this treachery will smoke you in solo, and that just kind of sucks.
I
Yeah,
kind of
this
wish there
reminds me
was
a
a way
lot
to.
of Barrel Roll from Nebula, where it places that evasion counter, and you're just like, my entire game is different and sucks now.
Yeah,
That's how Rainfire feels when you draw it.
Yeah, I wish there would have been a way to heal the tower.
I will say that I do like that they give you a choice on a lot of the player cards, or on a lot of the villain cards, right? So on Proxima, you get to choose to give her +2 attack or do a damage to the tower. Unfortunately, what I found in my player groups is that choice it's kind of like a pseudo choice. Once you know like what the optimal choice is for your team and your player group, you basically make the same choice like every turn. So it may as well just say when I'm playing with 4 players, when she activates, deal 1 damage to the tower, and don't even give me the other choice, because I almost never take it. It's like 99 times out of 100, I take the other option. And that just might be me being a dumb player. So don't necessarily always take the option I take. But I was a little disappointed in a lot of the player choice cards because I was really excited because I think interesting player choices is what makes Marvel Champions its absolute best. And all the choices here felt like these like fake choices almost that they were really just testing to see whether you were playing solo or multiplayer.
the illusion of choice, right?
The illusion of choice. This would have been a great invocation. Any other big comments on tower defense?
Yeah, I think Swarma should be a basic card in the actual game.
No.
Yeah, I don't think
So
that
if you
should be a
don't know,
campaign
Shawarma
card.
is the campaign reward. We'll talk about campaign next episode too, but in each of these scenarios, you start with something in play to do with the campaign. And in this one, there's a side scheme that has no consequences on it. It just sits there. And it says when you defeat this side scheme, everybody shuffles a copy of Shawarma into their deck and then flip this over. When you flip it over, it becomes a minion, and you got to fight the minion. Um, But Shawarma is a basic resource that provides 1 of each type, so it's a triple resource that gets shuffled into everybody's deck. So it's pretty great.
I mean, it's so simple. It should easily be a real card. It's just 1 of each,
I
max
don't.
1 per deck. It's only 1 that you can have in the deck. It's fine.
I think you've got 1 per deck on the brain from all of your Overwatch projects.
No,
I don't think this should be a normal card.
no, it's just
You know what the good
horrible.
news is, Crimson? No
What's
one's
that?
gonna hunt you down if you put it in your decks.
Dude, I'm putting
That's
it in my
true.
decks.
When I play with my kids, I would definitely put Shawarma in their decks just to give them
Heck
more
yeah.
money. Why not?
Swarma's good, man. Don't knock the Swarma.
Um, so how does this compare to Wrecking Crew for everybody? This is another multi-headed villain, or I shouldn't say that. That's my opinion on it, but it's another multiple villain scenario. So there's 2 of those now. How do you feel about Tower Defense versus Wrecking Crew?
I haven't played it, but it looks rough. I have
It's fun. I mean, uh it's less harder to gimmick than Wrecking Crew. That's for sure.
probably easier to set up than Wrecking Crew.
Yeah. I'm
You
shuffling
would
less
think
less
that,
mini
but those
decks.
paragraphs, man, I'm just
Hey,
not a fan.
and you still get your Nemesis set in this.
You do still get your Nemesis set and your modularity, which I think is a big win. I think that is something that Wrecking Crew really suffers from. Wrecking Crew is easily gameable. That was one of the big complaints that myself and almost everybody had was
Yes.
once you figure out how to play Wrecking Crew, you realize you get to decide who the active villain is. You can take advantage of that.
Yep.
But Wrecking Crew had a lot of boost cards that switched who the active villain was. So you could think you were in a safe situation, especially in multiplayer expert, and then all of a sudden it switches to the wrong villain who schemes against people or activates against people, and it spirals. Um, Here, there's not so much a lot of that, right? The active villain that does their 4 activations in 4 player is always going to be known ahead of time, which again is a lot like Slay the Spire or things like that. Um, to me, that was less exciting than giving me control of letting me switch who the villain was. No, always knowing who was coming next just meant I had 2 turns to prepare for that villain every turn, which makes the villains feel a little bit easier. I think part of my problem with this scenario is I find the Black Order to just be very blah, and I'm kind of hitting Thanos fatigue from like Thanos being pushed into every Marvel video and card game that exists right now because of Endgame coming out in the last decade. So I feel like these characters should have personalities, but instead they just like attack you and kill people, and maybe that's their personality in the comics. I really don't know.
It is. It really is.
Oh, true to character. They
Yeah,
attack and they scheme. I feel good.
these guys are relatively new villains. They popped up in the Infinity event. At
Hickman's
this
right.
point, yeah, Hickman's Infinity event. I
Okay.
want to say it was like 10 years ago or something. It's been a while. Maybe not that long, but you get what I'm saying. And yeah, they just kind of show up, and it's Thanos, and he's like, "By the way, I have a posse now. Don't worry about them, but I have dispatched them all over the earth to mess your guys' stuff up." And varying levels of mess your guys' stuff up happened. Some scoring a 0, others scoring quite a bit. That was pretty much it. Like, they're not a terribly complex super team, or villain team, I guess, but I mean, they get the job done. But they're Thanos' fist, basically.
I think it's time to see some Apocalypse in the Four Horsemen. That's my.
Isn't
It was
Apocalypse on a card in Kang or something like that?
I'm not sure, but yeah. Well, I guess he's more of an X-Men villain anyway. So
Are you thinking of Ramatut?
no,
Swear, I'm checking right now. You guys give this. You give this its grades, and then we'll talk about it.
Oh, he is on a card. He is on a card. Yeah, he's in the art.
Nice.
I feel better. Wolverine's on that card too, right?
I think
That's
so.
right.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait. Wolverine, Apocalypse,
Um,
Mr. Sinister.
yeah. Tower defense is it's cool. I don't know that I'd be reaching for it super quick as like a solo scenario. Um, but I like the moving pieces and like the decisions here. Um, I guess exist, but I think I just really like Proxima Midnight's ability, kind of like Kang's ability, where it's like choose one or the other. It's unfortunate that, like you said, with the damage to the Avengers Tower, it's a little bit less negotiable than with Kang's. But I like the mechanic itself, the this or that. Uh, I actually really like that the two treacheries have Proxima and Corvus fighting Wanda and Vision. So it's one power couple versus another. Overall, I don't know. I wouldn't give it more than like maybe like a C plus, B minus.
Same range. I wanted to say B minus because I gave Ebony Maw a C plus. But I think I dislike this one more than I dislike Ebony Maw. So I said the box was getting better, but this one got a little bit worse for me.
You got instantly lied.
Yeah, I instantly lied. Plot twist. I'm gonna give this one a C. Um, these 2 villains that this is not a lie this time. These 2 villains that we just went over are my least favorite villains from the box. Every villain from here not out is like in my top 5 villains for the game. So I'm excited to get past tower defense and not have to talk about it again.
I got no grade since I haven't played it. If I was going to do a paper grade, I'd probably keep it around C or B. It looks
You know
fun.
what the best part of this one is?
What's that?
That awesome Captain Marvel and Hawkeye shooting people art on Scheme 1B.
Yeah.
That's like the only reason I would set this scenario up is there's Hawkeye art there, and
Where
gotta go for
where
it.
she's like laying down the law with a giant like photo blast, and
Yeah,
he's
she's like
shooting an
shooting a
arrow.
nuclear blast at something, and he's like, "Let me shoot my arrow. This is gonna help."
Pating, pating. He's like his arrows are being eviscerated by the energy, and he's just like, yeah, I'm contributing.
That's how I feel at work on team projects too. It's great. It's just
Now it makes sense. Now it
yeah,
all makes sense.
exactly. Everyone
Oh,
understands
man.
now. All right.
Are we doing Thanos?
Well, I don't know who's the third villain.
Yeah, it's Thanos time. We're talking about Thanos. He's big.
Shocked.
Yeah, he's big. He's purple, and he's here to do it to you. That's for sure.
What?
Yeah, yeah, you bet, man. He's
I
got.
have a hilarious story. I have to tell it really quick. We talked about Kennedy Hawk's mom in this episode. When my parents visit, I actually force them to play Marvel Champions with me. It's really
No, you
humorous.
don't.
I
No,
do. My mom has played 4 games of Marvel Champions, and she has
we.
played against Thanos, but she doesn't see Marvel movies at all. She's like not watched them, and she could not figure out like where she knew Thanos from, even though it was from like TV commercials. So she thought it was like something from McDonald's from when we were little, and I think she was thinking of Grimace, but she couldn't remember the name of it. And I really wanted to say it, but I didn't. Anyway, thanks for paying for my internet. All right, go Thanos.
First of all, everybody knows that nothing can stop the grimace. That's for
Yeah,
damn sure.
you know,
But this scenario has one of the worst keywords for me personally I've ever like that the game has ever presented, and that is stalwart, and that pains me every second that it exists. But
what does Stalwart do?
it's a good keyword. I'm not done complaining. Hang on.
Oh,
It's a good keyword. I'm glad it exists. With that said, one of my favorite things to do in the game just is hard stopped. So stalwart. Before we move any further, the character cannot be stunned or confused. Confused is whatever, but I love stunning the villain and feeling good about myself, and I can't do it because of this big purple dope being immune to it. God. So anyway, Thanos has, of course, 3 cards. He has pretty okay stats, like pretty much what you'd expect. His level 1, he's got 1 scheme and 2 attack. His level 2, he's got 2 scheme and 3 attack, and his level 3, he's got 2 schemes still and 4 attack. So on level 3, he is really smacking. All of them are stalwart. 2 and 3, he has toughness, so he gets a nice fresh toughness token when you reveal him. Thanos has a force response on level 1. After the Infinity Stone deck runs out, give him a boost card, which is cool. I think that's good. When revealed for level 2, go find his fancy hat, Thanos' helmet, and attach it to him. And then he has the same force response. And finally, on level 3, when it's revealed, go find his armor and attach it to him. And then he keeps the force response to give him a boost card when he runs out. Which is, of course, referring to his super fun side deck that has to do with all of the Infinity Stones. So, similar to like Crossbones, where you would shuffle and give him weapons. Um, in this case, you have a side deck that gives him Infinity Stones. They have effects, and he triggers sort of like preparations. So when he goes to do something, he gets an additional effect from the stone, and then you discard the stone. Um, the main scheme, the Infinity Stones, um, it's got the again similar to Crossbones. Infinity Stones 1B when revealed, take the top card of the Infinity Stone deck, put it into play, and then grab the Sanctuary side scheme and reveal it. 2A, we 2A is like the best mechanic, right? Shuffle everything back into your deck. Shuffle your discard and your deck together, and then get snapped. You lose the top half of it. They're all gone. They're it doesn't say that you can't look at them, but it's more fun if you don't, because you don't know who got snapped. And the last stage is just hey, don't let Thanos do Thanos stuff. He sort of sets up in like a fortress, like a literal flying fortress with the Sanctuary side scheme mentioned on 1B. It's got a 3 base and hinder of 1 per player. Thanos can't take damage while Sanctuary is in play, which is his ship. When defeated, each player may spend up to 3 physical resources from their hand and deal 2 damage to Thanos for each physical resource spent this way. This damage also ignores the tough status card, which initially I was like, wow, that's a really specific sentence at the end. Before I realized that anytime you've pushed him into another card, um, he has toughness. Also, stage 2 starts with toughness. So basically, what I'm saying is I can't read. His armor that is mentioned by stage 3. Anytime he would take any amount of damage, reduce that amount by 1. So he's ignoring your retaliates. He's ignoring any tiny amount of damage. And in order to get rid of it, it's a hero response after your hero makes a basic attack against Thanos, not just an attack. So you can't use a minion to get rid of this, or attacking a minion to trigger this. You have to be attacking him. You have to get reduced by 1. Then you have to spend a lightning and a physical resource to discard it. So that's cool. In that I like that it's a hero response that's relative to an action that you're taking, rather than just hero action, do this, discard a card, do this. It makes sense. You have to get in there and get it off of him. Similarly, his helmet does the same thing. It can be discarded when you attack him by spending a mental and a physical resource. That one's a little bit less of a pain, giving retaliate 1. But those aren't his only attachments in the deck. He's also got 2 copies of Master of the Stones. Forced Interrupt. When he activates, put the top card of the Infinity Stone deck into play. At the end of the activation, discard Master of the Stones. He gets +1 scheme and +1 attack. So for 1 activation, he's going to get an additional stone effect, which can be pretty rough considering what the stones do, which we'll go over in just a little bit. He's also got 2 copies of Avatar of Death. He and Death have got along for a lot of years. On again, off again relationships, right? If you are an alter ego, he schemes. If you are a hero, he attacks you, but it also gains overkill and piercing. So more of the no ally stuff, ally hate, right? We've got the Deviant Syndrome. 2 copies of that with Insight 1. When revealed, he gets a tough status card, and if you can't, place 1 threat on the main scheme. So if he is already tough, like if this is your first card on stage 2, it just says Insight 3 basically, which is pretty rough. The boost effect on that also gives him a tough status card. So there's a ton of tough in this scenario. I Am Inevitable. He's got 2 copies of that. Give him a face down boost card, which is not the worst thing, obviously. But the boost effect, discard the top card of the Infinity Stone deck, apply its boost icons for this activation as if it were a boost card, which is not super scary, but it also burns through the Infinity Stone deck a little bit faster, which means that he's going to get additional boost effects. He's also got 2 copies of the Mad Titan. When revealed, put the top card of the Infinity Stone deck in play. The boost effect, if damage from this attack defeats an ally, put the top card of the Infinity Stone deck into play. So you can see that there's an ongoing theme where if your luck is not great, you might be facing multiple Infinity Stones pretty regularly. Finally, he's got a side scheme called the Titan's Throne. When defeated, choose and discard an Infinity Stone from play. So that's pretty cool. It has the hazard icon, and it's got a 2 per player threat. So that is all the cards, except for the Infinity Stones. I don't know if we're doing those with the module episode though.
We probably need to go over those today because he's required to use
Right?
the Infinity Gauntlet set, and it just
Yeah.
inherently works with his stuff, right?
Yeah. That's why I realized about halfway through that might be a different episode, but we're making it this episode because it's a
Audible.
spoiler. It's a spoiler for the module episode. Here you go. Hope you guys are ready. So Thanos's card 1 having 1 scheme and 1 or 2 attack is not a big deal. However, he starts with the Infinity Gauntlet, which gives him +1 to both of those stats. After the villain, it's permanent. It's got setup, so he starts with the glove on. Force response: after attached villain activates, resolve the special ability of each Infinity Stone in play. Otherwise, put the top card of the Infinity Stone deck into play. So if he doesn't have a stone, he gets a stone. If he does have a stone, he resolves it. First, we have the Mind Stone, and all of these cards just have a special. There's no like revealed effect because they are coming from a different different deck. So the Mind Stones effect, you are confused. If you were already confused, discard a card at random from your hand. Place this card in the Infinity Stone discard pile, which is also the final text on all of the cards. So after the special is resolved, they are then discarded. The Power Stone, you are stunned. If you were already stunned, take 3 damage. The Reality Stone, discard an ally, upgrade, or support you control. So an extra caught off guard in there. The Soul Stone, heal 3 damage from the villain and give him a boost icon, or a boost card. The Space Stone, discard cards from the top of the encounter's deck until a minion is discarded. Put that minion into play with you. And finally, the Time Stone, discard the top 4 cards of your deck and place 1 threat on the main scheme for each different card type discarded this way. So your allies, your upgrades, your supports. So all in all, they provided a pretty big extra punch to Thanos, even beyond just face value.
Yeah, those stones are incredibly frustrating. And that boost card that he gets is annoying, but I think the effects from the stones are even more annoying. We get again this kind of thing where you kind of know what's coming from the villain ahead of time, right? Especially in solo, since it's like every other activation, he's going to get one, disregarding all the shenanigans from his deck. You see which stone's coming up, and then you prepare. Oh, I know I'm getting a minion, so I better hold on to this relentless assault, or keep my widow's bite for then, or whatnot. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I really underestimated them when we played against it actually, and I was like, oh, additional effect, who cares, no big deal. And then turns where there was 2 stones, or I think we might have even had a 3 stone turn. Um, I don't remember exactly, but maybe I was just dreading it so much that I actualized it in my memory. Um, but yeah, where it was like, oh, go find a minion. Also, you're stunned. Good luck.
The most annoying thing that our group has constantly done is we keep putting the stones into the wrong discard pile, and then we'll like shuffle the stone discard pile or the stone pile. I think we did this in our game too. We were like, "Why are there only 2 Infinity Stones? I'm pretty sure there were more than 2 in that gauntlet." And then I have to go through. One time we even shuffled them into the encounter deck, and we had somehow like gotten to the point where all of us decked out at the same time. So we had like 6 face down encounter cards, and we like could not find the Infinity Stones because they were missing. Like Thanos had snapped them away. And then we were like, well, I guess they're just gone. The dog ate them or something. And then we flipped over our encounter cards, and 4 of them were hidden there. It was pretty funny. Don't do that. That's not the right way to play the game.
Fellas, I don't know how to tell you this, but I might have lost 1 or more of the Infinity Stones, and I don't know which ones are missing.
One thing that's cool in Thanos' setup is he's got that really big threat threshold before he snaps, but I still see him snap in several games, just because people will flip down and he'll get one of those avatar deaths or advances, and all of a sudden things will like skyrocket out of control, or side schemes will come out that you have to worry about first. Um, we played this last night actually with our 3-player group, and this group is very confident about never letting that first scheme pop. And we had like 17 threat before it was going to pop, and somebody flipped down. We thought it was going to be fine. And they ended up getting an advance, and the Infinity Stone deck cycled that time, and we got the Infinity Stone that places threat twice, and both times it placed 4 threat. And he got like exactly to 36, and we had to snap away half of our decks. Um, and they were very upset, but very shocked. This was their first playthrough. Very shocked and excited, like about the theme of the deck going away. Um, it was Nebula, Gamora, and Spider-Man, and Nebula lost like 7 of her 8 techniques, which was brutal. Gamora lost all of her attacks, so all she had was thwarting events and ping damage. And Spider-Man was playing like play all the draw allies and block for everybody deck, and he lost like Black Cat and Ironheart and somebody else. So it was just like Spider-Man had to pivot and start doing damage. Gamora had to pivot and start doing the thwart instead of Spider-Man. and Nebula had hand cannons and just went ham with hand cannons over and over again. It was pretty
ham cannons.
hysterical. Ham cannons, yes, they were firing giant honey baked hams. Not a sponsor again.
That's what it's It's truly a holiday miracle. I think
Yes.
that's also a case for not looking at your face down or your half cards that are cut. Like just don't
Yeah,
just
that's
shave.
the way we do it. I think it's perfect to not know because you'll find out once you cycle through your deck, right? I was fishing for Black Cat, and I was like, I need to know where she was. So I was like doing everything I could to discard cards from my deck and find out who was there. Luckily, I still had Nick Fury and Maria Hill, so it wasn't all lost and 1 or 2 copies of Regroup. But I didn't have Black Cat, who I really wanted. But
Save
yeah,
yourself the heartbreak.
it was painful for Peter. It was really painful. But he had all 3 swinging web kicks, so it was okay. I've definitely had games where it took all my attack. I played a Nebula game where it took all my attack away at once. And I was just going through it may have been my first game with Nebula. I think it's the one that's on YouTube, and I was playing against Thanos, and he snaps, and I'm like going through Nebula's deck, and I'm like, this hero stinks. Like, where is all her damage? And then I look through my discarded cards later, and I'm like, oh, there's like 4 attack events from the deck, and all of her attack upgrades are over here. Like, no wonder I could like just slap Thanos to death for the next hour. Sounds more painful than it was. It was actually very fun. Any tips against Thanos?
Don't try to stun him.
Don't try to stun him because Kennedy Hawk will correct you. No,
Don't
not
bring
correct you.
don't bring your favorite stunning Captain America deck against Thanos. Build something different. Bring something different.
Yeah.
Save yourself the heartbreak.
He doesn't have a ton of minions with his recommended setup. That's what our group found out the other day. We kept playing Angela, and we'd reveal 10 cards and not find any minions because he's just got like 5 of the named Black Order minions in his deck. So once you've seen 5 of them, don't count on things like Defender of the Nine Realms and stuff like that. You might not even need to, like, the minions are pretty beefy, but they're beefy enough that they're just going to take your major attacks. So you don't need to bring this like medium damage as much for minions if you're playing with the recommended sets. Obviously, switch it up and you have whatever you've set up.
Space Pirates.
No, people are so sick of Space Pirates they never want to hear it again.
No, they're not.
There were no Space Pirates in today's thing. I promised it. We can go back to Space Pirates next week. We should just do a whole episode. When is Talk Like a Pirate Day? We could do Talk Like a Space Pirate Day. Nobody? Okay,
I think it's
never mind.
normal.
That's just normal days for you? Okay. He has a ton of 3 boost icon cards. I did want to mention that, because that's what happened to our team last night when he snapped. Let me pull up his cards here so I make sure I'm not lying. But for us, it seemed like every time someone flipped down and he schemed, we're like, oh, he schemes for 6. Great. Thanks. His armor and his helmet and sanctuary all have 3 boost icons. And then from the modular sets that they have you mix in, Black Dwarf has 3 boost icons. So I guess it's only like 4. But for some reason for us, it was like every card. I swear to goodness. But he does have a ton of like 3 and 2 icon cards. One thing that was interesting about Thanos for me is he's got some cards that really feel like a break. Like the I am inevitable, just giving him a face down boost card. Yeah, that's going to be horrible later, but it feels like a break when you're like, if they draw in advance, I lose the game. And you get that, you're like, no problem. Sounds great. But it didn't feel so like polarizing. Like Nebula would not have card, like Nebula could just puke out of herself and like let you win, or she could just surge to your death turn 2. It didn't feel like that set of like different power levels. Just every once in a while we had a card that was like, oh, okay, I don't mind that card coming up right now. A lot of times it was the Mad Titan or I am inevitable, and you're just like, that's a thing I can handle this turn. And it's nice to have those like breathing room cards in there. And they weren't breathing room to the point that they didn't hurt us later, but they were breathing room to the point that like we were allowed to recover. We were allowed to flip down, which is really when Marvel Champions becomes its best, when like the players can do the things they want to do have a chance at winning, but also have a chance at like either losing or having this thematic snap event happen. So I loved everything about Thanos.
I think to quote you in our game, the give him a boost card, treachery, the I'm inevitable. I think you revealed it and you said that looks like a you problem. This is a good turn, and that was it. That it was my problem, but yeah, good teamwork, I guess.
That's what we say every time we draw an obligation. We're like, oh, that's a someone else's problem turn. Um, Sidebar: my favorite thing that happens. This happened last night too. Nebula drew Spider-Man's nemesis, and my friend said that sounds like a you problem, and he threw the card. We like throw the card like Gambit across the table at each other. And then I drew my card, and it was Nebula's obligation, so I got to throw it right back at Nebula and be like, "This sounds like a you problem, jerk." Um, but jokes on him. He was exhausted, and I wasn't. So, ha. Anyway, no, I think there's a lot of you problem cards in here, especially in multiplayer. Unfortunately, in
Yeah,
solo, you is truly. We gotta stop saying the word you. You is truly you. So, um,
heard you was
not so.
banned.
Yeah, the word you is banned. Um, That's a same player problem. That's a first player problem. Oh,
There
I'm
it
the first
is.
player every turn. That sucks.
There it is. I mean, the Infinity Gauntlet deck as a whole is, or the Infinity Stone deck as a whole is basically that's a you problem.
So, which villain that's not Thanos are you the most excited to try the Infinity Stones with?
Oh man. Uh oh wow. Okay.
The obvious answer is Crossbones, but we're gonna disqualify him
Right,
because
right. Um honestly, Red Skull?
that could be fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
I could see it.
like I'm into the like aesthetic of it, obviously, because he's always, hanging out with the Cosmic Cube. That's like his favorite thing in the world. But what if you had an Infinity Gauntlet? And also it adds a little bit of a punch to a villain that isn't that scary in solo, like outside of campaign play. So I think adding it to Red Skull is where I go first.
I have two answers.
No,
The
no.
first one is fine.
Add,
I have one
yeah,
answer.
add them together, divide it by two. Math pod,
Lang,
math podcast. Math
Clang.
pod.
No, I think this the gauntlet can be really hysterical with Claw. Just thematically wise, because he has this giant Infinity Gauntlet oven mitt, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like the gauntlet is like a left-handed glove. And is that the hand that's like a Sonic Disruptor, or is it the other hand? I'd
I'm
have to
pretty
look
sure
at Claw art.
I'm pretty sure it's his left hand, like just off the top of my head. Let me see.
I'm gonna
Oh,
check because shooting the sound waves through the gauntlet while snapping sounds hysterically claw-like to me. I don't know
uh,
about you.
it's both.
What? He doesn't have
Eh,
any hands?
No, I'm finding images that have it on either of them. In fact, there's two figures produced by Marvel, and one is Ulysses Klaue from Black Panther. So it's Gollum, and his left hand is the one that's coming apart. And then uh, there's another figure of the classic design where his right hand has the amplifier on it. But there was an old like yeah, there's examples of either hand. Originally in Fantastic Four, I believe it's his first appearance. It's his right hand, and it's pretty consistently his right hand in the comics. But it looks like the movie verse made it his left hand.
To be fair, he like died and got resurrected a bunch. But looking at all the Marvel Champions art, it's always his right hand. So I was off. But still, that sound manipulation treachery card, he's like got his hands in this like Dragon Ball Z position, like he's becoming a Super Saiyan. And he's got his claw Sonic Disruptor in his right hand, and he's got the Infinity Gauntlet in his left hand, and he's ready to rock and roll. So I think that would be cool. I also think it'd be funny in Drang because I just really like playing against Drang, and this doofus that's only been in like 3 comics like somehow stumbles into the Infinity Gauntlet and starts using it to like command his Rock Band of Badoon around. I think that'd be hysterical. So I would play it with Drang.
Here's a comic panel where it's his left hand, and he's got a Goblin Glider. That's like Marvel Champions 110%.
Oh, what comic is that? We need to find that and send it out to
I
everybody.
Yeah, I have. I'll save the image so that I have something to search for later. But I'm putting it into our chat here. to give me a reminder to look this up because I'm interested in finding out more about this. I think I know the artist already, but I'm also finding images of this is like a whole rabbit hole, man. You shouldn't have asked me that. I have images of Clow that are animated, and here he is with his right hand, and now here he is with his left hand from Avengers Assemble, actually.
What you're
Uh,
telling me is the artwork is inconsistent. Something like
yeah,
a card game we know.
this is crazy. Why didn't I never noticed this before? I've never noticed this. This is like the most interesting thing right now.
I'm glad that I have spurred your interest for a Friday night. Nothing
Well,
is more exciting than thinking about whether Claw has sonic disruptors on his left or right hand.
no, I don't know about that. Although I'm not an art guy, so
What if I told you in Overpower it has a right hand? It's his right hand.
I don't know. I just randomly grabbed some images off Google.
Well, it is. I'm telling you.
One thing about the Infinity Gauntlet, if you're going to mix it in with another villain, it has setup on it, right? So it always starts in play and it creates its own deck. So if you don't mix another modular in with that villain, the villain's going to have like a thinner villain deck. But if you
Yeah.
want a real challenge, the Infinity Gauntlet is a weapon trait. So if you put Weapon Master
Oh
into
my
the
god.
villain's deck, all those Weapon Master cards are going to surge, which is terrifying.
Now put it in with Crossbones, who has like almost no cards himself. Is Crossbones the smallest villain, deck size wise?
I think
Oh,
he is because he has 3 mods.
Yeah.
Well, one of them isn't even in his deck, right?
No, he's got 3 mods and the experimental weapons are set aside.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot which module it was that was set aside.
Yeah. People will find out when they do the challenge this week. We got to grade Thanos.
A. Easy. Easy A.
Yeah,
He
he looks like an A also.
He is
That guy.
gigantic and scary, and he will throttle you, and that is Thanos. And then he snaps, and that's cool.
Yeah, I kind of can't wait to play him.
I do my best to
also give
outplay
him an A.
Thanos. I outplay Thanos by not thinking about the cards I put into my deck. So when he snaps half of my deck, it doesn't matter because they're mostly bad cards anyway. So haha, got you, Thanos.
Would you ever run a 50-card deck against Thanos so that you have more cards after he snaps?
I would run a 50-card deck for dumber reasons than this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd do it for Adam Warlock.
Yeah. There it is.
I never thought that I would run a 50-card deck to counter Thanos, but when he snapped yesterday and I was playing that Spider-Man draw all these cards deck and I only had like 17 cards left in my deck after the snap, I was decking out every turn. I decked out twice one turn. It was really annoying. Like, all of a sudden when you have like 3 to 4 face down encounter cards and Thanos has his gauntlet, he becomes really hard. So I would almost consider running 50 cards.
Almost.
Almost. That's one thing to consider with Thanos. There's a play tip. We asked about play tips, and we were all like, "Don't run stunned. It's bad." Uh, um, if he's going to snap, right? You basically kind of control when that scheme is going to pop. If it's going to pop, get the important combo pieces for your deck, like the permanents, onto the board first, because then those are guaranteed to be in your deck for the rest of the game, or get them into your hand because it shuffles your discard pile and deck together and then has you discard half of it, but you keep the cards in your hand. So
So
if
Infinite
you're
Ant-Man
playing,
works here.
hmm?
Infinite Ant-Man works here, right?
Yeah, Infinite Ant-Man works here. You can get to a really thin deck really fast. If you're Captain America, make sure your shield isn't in your discard pile. Same thing for Thor with your hammer. Like, you're gonna have a real bad life if that happens.
Jeez.
So don't lose your bow as Hawkeye and think, oh, I can discard it because I'll pop it back in alter ego mode. No, that's a bad plan because if that pops, bad things happen. So get your important cards into your hand, and if we always talk in this show. I just had this realization like 2 nights ago. We always talk in the show about using life as a resource, but you can use threat as a resource as a player too, right? There's 12 threat per player that can go into that first scheme. You can let
Absolutely.
him scheme a couple times, and that's like a risk you're willing to take. And that lets you draw extra cards or do whatever else. But you can also sort of like decide when that main scheme pops by letting him scheme at an appropriate time. And if you do it when everybody has their combo pieces in hand, Like we always talk about deck thinning, Thanos just thinned your deck for you, and all of a sudden you have this really lean, efficient deck that you know has your combo in it, and that can make for like an advantage from this snap. Get rid of half the world. Who cares? I got my swinging web kick.
You just let them have a little bit of threat to make them think that they're winning.
Yeah, those poor villains. They gotta think they have a chance sometimes.
Yep. Give them the old rope-a-dope. You let them have a couple threat, and then bang. You don't stun them, and you hit them for a lot of damage.
Precisely. Well, that wraps up the first 3 villains. We won't
Yeah.
talk about who the next villains are until next time. In case you haven't been spoiled or played the box yet, go play those last 2 villains and see what happens after your team inevitably defeats Thanos.
Are we done? We Thanos is the big bad. He's the last one, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's
box is over. We're gonna
Yeah.
go on to something else next episode. I forgot about that.
it.
Stay tuned for the post-credit scene after Thanos.
Holy
Dun dun
shit.
dun.